and welcome to my third video on Pokemon Emerald Kaizo, and today we're going to be seeing if we can beat the whole game with just poison types. This will obviously be including dual typed poison Pokemon because having only mono poison types would severely limit my options. And for the uninitiated, Pokemon Emerald Kaizo is a difficulty ROM hack of Pokemon Emerald that makes me want to weep like a child. Some of the stuff near the end of this game honestly did make me react like that. So let's see if my boy Bongzilla and his Poison Gang subordinates can take down the inky dark blackness of this evil game.
How much more black could this be? And the answer is none.
So after completing all of the intro Boswellocks, we can head to the first route of this game to start our search for gang members. And unfortunately, the first thing that shows up in my search is my dreaded nemesis Caterpie.
What the fuck is that?
But the first squad member that actually shows up is a Wurmple. I mean, he is but a pale red imitation of our Bug Lord, but he'll do for now. And I named this Wurmple Scruffy after the character of the same name from Futurama.
Scruffy believes in this
Poison Gang.
Makes sense, Dustox has dust in his name and Scruffy is a janitor. I know, I'm a genius. And after this mere appetizer, the main event, our Lord and Saviour Bongzilla appears to lead this gang. And I don't care what happens in this run, Bongzilla will be in the squad through the whole thing and we will succeed. And this is all I found for the squad in the first route of the game. So before I moved on, I did a bit of level grinding and got Scruffy evolved into his final form, Dustox, which is actually pretty cool. And as you might expect, I also evolved the Bug Saviour into his perfect, beautiful last form, Beedrill.
Well, hello, Morning Wood.
I then moved on to Route 103 to see if there was any more Pokemon I could add to the squad. And here I found an Ekans.
I'm a snake.
And I of course named this Ekans Sneck because I'm incredibly original.
You look like a snake!
Yes.
I then went over to Route 102 to see if there was any lads I could add to the gang. And here I found a Spinarak.
Oh shit! A spy!
And I named this little fella Drut after the weird spider thing from the kids show Trapdoor. Stay away from that trapdoor, cause there's something down there. And the next member of the squad I found here was Gulpin. And honestly, Gulpin and his evolution Swalot are up there with my very favourite Pokemon. He really earned more love from me throughout the course of this run. I tell you what. And I named this green blob Rolf after James Rolfe, otherwise known as the angry video game nerd. Why did I do this, I hear you ask? It's because I was binge watching his older videos while I did this run. Seemed appropriate.
We got this, man. We got this by the ass.
After that, the team was rounded out by a Nidoran male. And I ran out of good names at this point, so I just called him King because it's in his name and King is my favourite Tekken character? Quite honestly, I was a bit skeptical of our chances going into this run, but this so-called Poison Gang is really coming together.
Hey, come on, it's just a couple of us guys. Just a couple of guys around here.
So with everyone sufficiently leveled, I bash through all the inferior Pokemon in my way on Route 102. And then we end up in Petalburg City where we do the usual guff of helping Wally catch the ultimate Hentai-mon. I then headed to Route 104 where I found a Nidoran female, that I probably won't be using but I named it Queen to match King, which led me to Petalburg Woods where we fight the usual Team Magma Grunt, who was no match for Bongzilla's lads. We then head out of the woods towards Rustboro City and on the way we come across the legendary Red, who we easily defeat but he will be back a couple times to mess with us on this run. We're then finally in Rustboro City, home of the first gym leader, Roxanne. But before that I head north to Route 116 because I know from my previous runs that you can get one of my favourite Pokemon here. And that Pokemon is Grimer. And I named this beautiful pile of purple waste Melvin after the band Melvins, because they're the originators of a genre of music called sludge metal, so it's ideal for our purple sludge bomb flinger.
You introduced Kurt Cobain to Dave Grohl,
And look what happened to Kurt.
maybe you shouldn't have done it.
Exactly.
If you could go back, would you not do it?
I wouldn't do it, I'd just shoot both of them in the head.
And I don't find anything else we can use in this field, so I go to the Pokemon Center and switch out Scruffy for our boy Melvin. Well, now it's time to take on Roxanne, but before that I just want to go on a quick tangent. I went into this run with the stupid notion that I'd have a level cap for every gym leader battle in this game. So basically I would make sure my Pokemon did not exceed the highest level Pokemon of my opponent. But that idea was thoroughly beat to death in this first gym leader battle. With my current squad at level 15, I couldn't even get past their second Pokemon. I did bugger off to catch an Oddish that I named Snoop Dogg because apparently Oddish is a weed Pokemon. And I also went and found myself a Bellsprout that I named Flesh Torch for obvious reasons.
FBI should be knocking on his door any minute now.
And even with these two grass types in the squad, we only managed to get up to our third Pokemon, Lileep. And the main reason for this is the fact that pretty much every one of her Pokemon is armed with healing berries and way better moves than we can access. So with my level cap idea crushed at the first gym, I went off to level grind.
Guess how long it took me to beat the game? Guess. No, 4 hours!
And during the level grinding process, a lot of stuff happened. Rolf learned the very useful move Giga Drain, which will be very helpful against these rocky gits. And our boy Melvin learned Shadow Punch, which is a bit odd, but it will be useful for Psychic Pokemon. Flesh Torch, the straight up G, learned Stun Spore, which is a little bit better than Wrap, I guess. And he also evolved into his second form, Weepinbell. He's only one step away from turning into a toothy Flesh Torch. Kinda like that movie Teeth, where that woman has a, shall we say, Dracula vision? Talking of G's, our oddish Snoop Dogg learns Sludge Bomb, and also evolves into the dribbling mess that is Gloom. And last but not least, King also learns Sludge Bomb and evolves into his second form, Nidorino. So with all the lads at level 20 to 21, I headed over to finally defeat that heinous villain Roxanne. And here's her squad. I get the feeling that even at this slightly higher level, this will still be tough. The first Pokemon she sends out is a Nosepass, and I sent him Rolf to take her down. And now that Rolf is faster than Nosepass, I get him to put her to sleep, and then Rolf sips away her life essence with his mighty Giga Drain. But her next Pokemon, Lunatone, doesn't fall for the same tactic, because it's faster than us and it can put us to sleep this time. And poor Rolf is killed before he can wake up, and I sent him Flesh Torch to get revenge for his fallen brother. And he gets the revenge he wanted with a critical Vine Whip, killing the Lunatone in one shot. And the next Pokemon she sent out was Anorith. And that does manage to damage Flesh Torch, but it still goes down in 2 Vine Whips. And she then sent out the absolute unit that is Shuckle, and Shuckle curses its attack and defense up as I feebly try to damage it, even healing with a berry when it's fully powered up. Touche Shuckle, I appreciate your level of trolling. And it manages to get the kill on Weepinbell after a couple of super powered rollouts. I then sent in Melvin to finish this dastardly trickster off, and after taking a strong rollout, the poison finally takes down the mighty Shuckle.
Respect. West Side.
Then she sent out Lileep, who does significant damage to Melvin but still falls to his mighty Sludge Bomb, which only leaves her last Pokemon, Relicanth, that kills Melvin before he can even do anything. I then sent in Snoop Dogg to finish this battle off, and Gloom does just that with a Mega Drain, giving us our first badge. So we then shoot off to save Mr. Briny's seagull wife, and then we witness this at his shack.
Why are you running? Why are you running?
We set sail on the 7 seas and arrive in Dewford Town, home of the second gym leader, Brawly. And as always, Brawly poses no threat to Bongzilla and his merry band of poison types. And following this, I headed to the Granite Cave, where I again have to traverse the ice floor puzzle.
What killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age!
I later found out there's more in this ROM hack. Pray for my eternal soul. We delivered a letter to Steven and then we sail off to Slateport City, where we encounter Archie and his little simps. We then take off from Malville City, where Rolf just so happens to finally evolve into the toppest of top lads, Swallet. And now it's time to take on Watson, and here's his squad. It doesn't look like much, but this is Kaizo, so anything can be a challenge. On my first attempt, I went in a few levels above his Pokemon, and even with Swallet's new move Earthquake, I barely make a dent in his squad. Mainly because his second Pokemon, Electabuzz, has Psychic, which massacres a lot of my squad. But I do manage to take it down with a little help from Bongzilla's mighty Sludge Bomb. And then the next Pokemon up, Ampharos, kills the rest of my squad with its good coverage. Well, off to level grind I go.
Eventually.
During the level grinding process, Weepinbell learned the handy move Leaf Blade, which packs a punch and has a high crit rate. And Melvin learned Shadow Ball, which is better than Shadow Punch, so I taught it to him. Last but not least, Bongzilla learned the move Drill Run, which will help us carve through this bunch of electric smegheads. And with all my Pokemon at level 36, we managed to easily bust through this gym, with Rolf killing the first 3 Pokemon himself. Then I tag in Bongzilla, who takes down the Ampharos with his almighty Drill Run. And then Melvin comes in to take down the Manectric, and the best sex toy a trainer could ask for finishes the last Pokemon Raichu, and we are victorious. I then struggled my way up to Meteor Falls, where we encounter Team Ailstorm, and before I headed to Mount Chimney, I went to catch a coffin that I named Lemmy for obvious reasons.
How do you know the CIA weren't involved in the Kennedy assassination? He's dead, isn't he?
I don't know, Wheezing has a certain Lemminess to it, and I'm sad to say I switched out Snoop Dogg for Lemmy. And before I head up Mount Chimney, I thought I would do a spot of level grinding. And this is a good time to point out how low this ROM hack makes the encounter rate in most areas. I've cleared up most of the bloody ash from this area waiting for one Pokemon. This game is a literal devil. But when I can actually find Pokemon to level grind on, our boy Melvin finally evolved into Muck. Praise be our purple prince. And Mucky Boy also learned Gunk Shot while I was level grinding, which is the most powerful poison move. I then did some level grinding for Lemmy, which took a ludicrous amount of time. She did learn Shadow Ball in the process though, and then she achieved her final form, Weezing, who I happen to absolutely love. Oh, and I forgot to mention this earlier, but Swalot learned Ice Beam at some point. So with everyone at level 50, I headed off to Mount Chimney to take on Maxie. And his first Pokemon Registeel sadly makes short work of the Bug King, but then Swalot comes in to get revenge, killing it with an Earthquake. But his next Pokemon Alakazam is a bit more of a hassle, and I send in Melvin to deal with this git. Unsurprisingly, Muck is slower than Alakazam and gets slammed with a Psychic that nearly takes him out. But our boy Melvin responds with a Shadow Ball that actually manages to kill the Alakazam, and I use the same method to take down his Claydol, except I use Lemmy instead. Then he sends out the absolute git that is Dusclops, who manages to kill our poor little Rolf. But King tags in to get retribution for his fallen friend, and the next Pokemon Maxie sends out is a Crobat. And Nidorino does manage to get a one-hit kill with his Head Smash, but because of the recoil, he dies as well. His last Pokemon was a Houndoom that managed to kill Lemmy, but Melvin tagged in and barely survived an overheat, which gave our lad the chance to kill the Houndoom with a Sludge Bomb. Don't ask why I didn't use Gunk Shot instead, I don't know either. And with that out of the way, I headed to Lavaridge Town, home of the Fire-type gym leader Flannery. And mercifully for us, at our current level, she didn't actually pose much of a threat, and it's not really worth going over. And it was at this point my stupid ass realised that I could evolve all my Pokemon that need stones in Falaba Town. So I headed over there and had an evolving spree. King finally lives up to his name, and so does Flesh Torch, in a grosser way.
Disgusting!
But it is of course time to take on our...
Father!
Sorry, I have to use that every time we fight Norman. It's the law, and... And here's Papa's squad. By the way, this is an incredibly gimmicky double battle. Norman opens up the battle with the team of Espeon and Slacking, and the battle always starts with Espeon using Skill Swap on Slacking, which takes away its useless ability Truant so it can now attack every turn, which makes it quite a formidable foe. And add into that the fact that Espeon can actually Skill Swap the bad ability to one of our Pokemon. I found that the best pairing to start this battle with was Melvin and Rolf because of their bulk. None of my Pokemon were fast enough to stop the skill swap shenanigans, but Rolf was able to get rid of the Espeon with a nice crit. And then Norman sent out a Swellow that came out and took out what remained of Rolf's health. So I sent in Lemmy to back up our boy Melvin. They managed to get a bit of damage in before Lemmy is taken down by a Crush Claw. I then sent in Nidoking to help Melvin, and then Melvin gets revenge for Lemmy on the Slacking. Norman then sends in a Tauros, which annoyingly has Intimidate. Swellow gets a lucky crit on Melvin that takes him down, and Tauros does a big chunk of damage to King with an Earth Power. But that doesn't stop Nidoking from getting Karmic Justice on the Swellow, which prompts Norman to summon the fat beast Snorlax. And then his Tauros finishes off our poor Nidoking, only leaving me with 2 Pokemon. And the second of those last 2 Pokemon was Bongzilla. Don't worry lads, we got this. Victory Bell hits Tauros with a lot of damage with his Leaf Blade, while Snorlax starts powering himself up with a Curse. Bongzilla is then hit with a strong Body Slam, nearly killing him, but thankfully Flesh Torch gets rid of the threat that is Tauros. And then Norman sends out Kangaskhan for the 2-on-2 to end this showdown. Bongzilla introduces himself with an X-Scissor that does over half of her health, but the Snorlax keeps buffing itself, this time with a Stockpile. That's really going to be a problem later. Before we can get a hit on the Kangaskhan, it kills the Bug Lord with a Fake Out.
How dare you!
And for this great misdeed, Flesh Torch smites the heathen down with his Leaf Blade. And that just leaves Flesh Torch and a buffed Snorlax. And luckily for me, Snorlax just kept buffing itself as Flesh Torch wore it down with poison. But that certainly was a close one. I did so many attempts to get past this gimmicky git. Wally's dad then gives us surf and we're on our merry way to Fortree City. And I just want to mention these acro bike jumps that they've added in here. I had to go all the way back to Malville City to switch bikes. This is a ROM hack thing, by the way. They do this a couple more times later on in trolly ways.
Sometimes foreshadowing is relatively obvious.
And I then went and cleared out the Weather Institute and fought May again, which is a battle that isn't really worth going over. But she did give us Fly, so that's something I guess. And we're now in Fortree City, home of Winona, the flying type gym leader. And here's her squad. Yes, this Spatula is very annoying. I mean, she has all the legendary birds. She opens up with a Zapdos and an Aerodactyl, and that Aerodactyl is a right git because it just spams Earthquakes that really bugger our health up, seeing as we're weak to it. And because of this Aerodactyl softening this squad up, every attempt I do pretty much ended in me dying to Moltres and Articuno. So I got annoyed and decided to go have a bit of a level grind.
A few moments later.
I actually grinded to level 64 and tried again, but I couldn't win, so I got salty and level grinded again up to level 74. And at this advanced level I was actually able to overcome this fight. But to be fair to Winona, I was nearly 20 levels above her Pokemon and I still lost 4 of them. With that out of the way, I headed over to Mount Pyre, and here I picked up a Ghastly for our Poison Gang. A Gengar is going to be really useful for the rest of this run, and I named this Ghastly Dimple after Dimple from Mob Psycho 100. And I decided to take Lemmy out of the squad for Dimple, mainly because Muck and Weezing are very similar and I like Muck more, so there you go. Plus Dimple is going to be crucial for us in this run. So I went off and evolved Ghastly first into a Haunter, and then finally the ghostly top lad that is Gengar. And quite honestly, Gengar's moveset isn't the best, but we can give him some better moves later on. Following this, I thought I'd go on a hunt for another Pokemon I should have added to my squad by now, and that Pokemon is Tentacool, who will eventually evolve into the very useful and versatile Tentacruel, who's actually a pretty awesome Pokemon. He'll give the squad a bit more coverage and variety. And I named this Tentacool Squidward because honestly, what else was I going to call it? Squidward is going to be a good boy, and I'm sorry to say I subbed out Melvin for Squidward, mainly because Muck and Swalot are very similar and Swalot just has better moves. But oh, don't you worry, Bongzilla ain't going nowhere and he'll stay in the squad no matter what. And after a little bit of level grinding, we have ourselves a Tentacruel. Look at those tentacles, he could do a lot of stuff for those bad boys. And while I was leveling him up, he learnt a lot of good moves. First of which was Confuse Ray, which will be very handy on opponents that don't have Lumberries. And secondly, he got the move Hydro Pump, and we all know that this beast move will come in handy at some point. And with that out of the way, I climbed up Mount Pyre and scared off the Team Maelstrom thugs. Which means it's time to head to the Team Magma hideout on the Jagged Pass. Which incidentally ended my Beedrill run in this game. And even with my full squad of poison lads, this cave was a massive pain in the arse to get through. Every battle pretty much guaranteed a trip to the Pokemon Center. I did go get the acro bike so I didn't have to take the lift every time, which was an improvement. But it was still hell. And at the end of this labyrinth of bollocks, there was a battle with Maxie waiting for us. And I subbed out Flesh Torch for Melvin in this section because I needed a strength user to get into the hideout to begin with. So we turn up and scare off Groudon.
To infinity and beyond!
Groudon saw Bongzilla coming and ran like a coward because he knew he could not stop a god. Well anyway, let's take on Maxie, and here's his squad. That is one intimidating set of Pokemon, I must say. Maxie opens up proceedings with a Tyranitar, and I obviously sent in our Chad Tentacruel Squidward. And thankfully for us, Squidward manages to get the kill on Tyranitar with a critical Hydro Pump. Maxie then sent out his next Pokemon Executor, and sadly for us, he outspeeds our Tentacruel, so he takes a big Psychic before he can do anything. So I got Squidward to get a couple of Sludge Bombs in on the Executor, and then sadly he fell to another Psychic. Well, I think it's time to give Dimple a try, and thankfully Dimple is faster than Executor, who dies from his Shadow Ball. And then Maxie sends out a Gengar of his own.
Who the heck are you?
I just told you that. Listen, I'm from the future.
How dare you point at me?
You were pointing first.
And Dimple shows this imposter who's boss by killing him with a powerful Shadow Ball. I then sent in Rolf to deal with the next threat, Flygon, who Rolf can easily take down with an Ice Beam. And I next swapped in Nidoking to deal with his Arcanine, who does get a good hit in with a Solar Beam?
What the fuck?
But unfazed by his injuries, King finishes the fiery dog off with a Surf, and then Maxie brings in his last Pokemon, Entei. King is faster and manages to get a cheeky head smash in that does a lot of damage, but Entei kills King with a Solar Beam. Why does he have Solar Beam as well?
What's wrong with these guys?
Dimple and Bongzilla both fall to Entei because they sadly couldn't outspeed him, so I thought I would let Melvin get the kill with what is his last battle in this video. You went out on a high, buddy. You'll be in the halls of Odin. With that hell zone out of the way, we head to Slateport City to see Team Maelstrom escaping in their little submarine they stole. So we tailed them back to their hideout in Lily Cove City. And wouldn't you know, this place is annoying as hell as well.
Why?
Similar to the Magma base, you have to pretty much trek back to the Pokemon Center after every battle, and it's not exactly close. After what feels like an eternity, we catch up to the lads in their submarine and they escape. And on the way to Moss Deep City, I got attacked by boats. Are these boats themselves the trainers? Are they some sort of boat transformers?
That's a good question.
I'm really disappointed that it's just trainers on the battle screen. Could have done with some Boaty McBoatisons.
This is fucking genius.
I'm 100% sure that I was slightly drunk when I wrote that. And I'm slightly drunk as I record this. But anyway, after we fought a bunch of boat people, we arrive in Moss Deep City, home of the twin psychic gym leaders Tate and Liza. And I knew that this battle was going to be a tough one, so I decided in my infinite wisdom to grind everyone to level 100. Because I hate myself.
70 years later.
That took a while, but I think it was necessary since we are weak to psychic after all. Well, let's take on this gruesome twosome, shall we? And here's their squad. Well, if I didn't level grind, this would have been hell. And the twins unsurprisingly open up with Latios and Latius, and I sent out the Bug King and his subordinate Dimple. And honestly, these two lads wreck through this whole squad. Bongzilla even gets the final hit on a Dirachi. Bongzilla is the only true mythical. And we get the TM for Psychic from this battle, and I give this to Dimple for coverage. So we then head over to the Moss Deep Museum where we team up with Steven to take on Team Magma. We then head down to the seafloor cavern to foil both teams' plans. And wouldn't you know it, this area is the literal Antichrist. You need to use Rock Smash, Strength and Flash throughout this whole area. But that ain't all, guess what they added? Another, even harder ice floor puzzle. My favourite!
The Iceman cometh.
I don't know if I made this clear, but I hate ice floor puzzles. But that's not all. After you get through the ice floor buggery, there's a water puzzle that you need Flash for. And if you mess up this water puzzle, you will have to go all the way back to the beginning of the cave. Whoever made this is pure, unadulterated evil. So after doing the ice floor puzzle 50 million times and the water puzzle about the same, there's also some boulder puzzles that I thankfully didn't fail. In the room after the rock puzzles, I found the TM for Earthquake, which is great because Nidoking really needs this move. Which leads us to the fight with Archie at the end of this cave. He may have legendaries, but we still don't have too much trouble with him. And then Kyogre buggers off.
Nope.
And they start a fight that's gonna end the world or something, and we have to go to the Sky Pillar to awaken Rayquaza. And we get to the top and wake up this sleepy boy.
Wake the fuck up, samurai. We have a city to burn.
Then his royal snakeness goes to stop the two toddlers fighting, and that's it.
What will you learn? That your actions have consequences.
Disaster averted, apparently. Well, with that out of the way, I solve all the cracked ice floor puzzles and we have to take on the last gym leaders. Yeah, gym leaders. We have to fight 2 fights to get this badge for some reason. I think the ROM hack added this because you usually just have to fight Juan in Emerald. I'm pretty sure anyway. Well, to be honest with you, neither of these battles is really worth going over. The first battle was a singles battle with Wallace and Bongzilla got the last kill, so that's all you need to know. And the second battle is a doubles battle with Juan. And Flesh Torch and Bongzilla slayed most of this fight with their ogre strength. Well, that was anticlimactic. But oh, don't you worry, the Elite Four is gonna be a fun time.
So that was a fucking lie.
Before we can even get to the victory road, we have to hop along this bike path the ROM hacker added. God, the person who made this really liked bikes, didn't they? Maybe it was Lance Armstrong who... Stop! Stop! But after that cycling bollocks, we ascend the waterfall that leads to the victory road. And oh boy, the ROM hacker really changed this area. Not for the better though. First of all, they made the encounter rate in this cave mental, which is incredibly annoying. Especially when half the battles are the buggery that is Wobbuffet.
There is no escape from the Wobbuffet, only death.
I'm really feeling the crying Ian from EastEnders coming on again. Trust me, it gets worse. So after a bit of walking, you come into the first puzzle area that requires Flash, cause of course it does. And it requires Strength, because of course it does. Oh, and don't forget our good friend Rock Smash for good measure. I have a Swampert I've been using for HMs. Poor bastard has pretty much all of them.
It's like getting gang raped. Both of its slots are getting fucked at the same time.
While the puzzles in here weren't too hard, they were still trolly, like this set of ledges where you can easily end up in a loop. The bit that got old was having to do these puzzles over and over again after having to go to the Pokemon Center. The bit that made me the most angry was this mud hill that you need the Mac bike to get up. And of course, to get into this area, you had to use the Acro bike, so there's no way you'd have the Mac bike. So you have to go all the way to Malville City to swap them. Okay, it's Ian time. I was honestly on the verge of a mental breakdown at this point. I mean, look at how long I'm standing there for. So after swapping the bikes and doing the weird jig required to get up this ledge, I was free from the shackles of this cave. Well, it's been a long journey, but it's now time for the Elite Four. Let's see if we can do this. Poison Gang, unite!
Crush your enemies, see them driven before you,
They hear the lamentation of the women.
And the first Elite Four member is Sydney, and here is his squad. Yep, everyone's Pokemon are at level 100 here. The first Pokemon he sends out is a Sableye, and I sent in Squidward. Thankfully Squidward is faster and he slams Sableye with a critical Hydro Pump, almost killing it. But Sableye responds in kind with a Shadow Ball that takes a considerable chunk of Tentacruel's health. Then Squidward gets the kill with an Aurora Beam, and I next sent in King to take on Sydney's Jolteon. The Jolteon gets the first strike with a hidden power that doesn't really phase the Nidoking. Then he responds with an Earthquake, killing the Jolteon in one hit. I then switched in Flesh Torch to take on Taurus. Unluckily for us, Taurus hits first with a strong double edge, but Flesh Torch manages to get the kill with a critical Leaf Blade. I then decided to switch in Rolf to take on this Alakazam. And Alakazam outsped everything I threw at it, so Rolf was the only option because he can withstand a Psychic. Barely. But thankfully Rolf gets in a critical Gunk Shot, killing the Alakazam. I then sent in Dimple to take care of a Machamp. And I figured out this Machamp didn't have a Lumberry, so I used Confuse Ray on it. And after it hit itself twice, Gengar was able to get the kill. I lastly sent out Nidoking to take on Houndoom. And Houndoom almost kills the King with a Heat Wave, but he clings on for dear life. And in response he kills them up with a single Earthquake.
Hail to the king, baby.
Well, that was rather smooth. Let's hope the rest are like that, eh? Next on the chopping block is Phoebe, and here's her squad. Yeah, that looks pretty damn annoying. And we start this battle with another clone situation with two Gengars. But as always, my Gengar comes out on top, one-shotting the imposter with a critical Psychic. I next sent in Nidoking to take on the ultimate waifu Pokemon, Gardevoir. Nidoking hits first with a Sludge Bomb that does a decent amount of damage. But Gardevoir responds with a very powerful Psychic that manages to dethrone our king. And then Dimple steps in and he kills what remains of Gardevoir's health with a Shadow Ball. Following that I sent in Bongzilla to take on Dusclops, and I knew this git would be a problem. So I got Bongzilla to use up his Lumberry with a Toxic. With his work done, Bongzilla sadly falls to a Shadow Ball, so I switched in Dimple to get revenge for the boss. And thanks to Bongzilla's efforts, Dimple can now confuse the Dusclops, which is very handy. With the help of Confusion and the Poison, Gengar takes down the Dusclops with a Shadow Ball. I then sent in Squidward to take on Sableye. And Squidward opens up with a decent Hydro Pump. And Sableye starts its double team ploy. And since I know it's going to be double teaming, I use Confuse Ray on it to get rid of its Lumberry. But it doesn't double team again, and this time it actually uses a Recover to get its health back to the max. With the help of Confusion, Tentacle is able to get the kill with a critical Aurora Beam. And the next Pokemon up is Crobat, who opens up Proceedings with a very strong hidden power that takes a giant bite out of Squidward's health. But luckily for us, Crobat doesn't have a Lumberry, so we control it with the use of Confuse Ray. And our Confusion based antics pay off, and Squidward gets the kill with a couple of Aurora Beams. The last matchup is between Rolf and a Ludicolo. And you know how this is going to go. Rolf tanks a few hits and takes the Ludicolo down with his Gunk Shot, thus giving us the win over the second Elite Four member. Which leads to the third member, Glacier, and here's her squad. We get it, you like the ice.
Oh, excuse me, you're not sitting on a glacier in nothing but your underpants? What are you stressed or something?
And I sent out our Squiddly Diddly Tentacruel to take on Glalie, which turned out to be a good idea because Squidward massacres the Glalie with a critical Hydro Pump. And next up was a Regice. That Tentacruel pelted with Hydro Pumps as he was killed with Thunders. But thankfully Bongzilla swooped in to finish off the Regice with an X-Scissor. And then the next matchup is between Flesh Torch and Swampert. Sadly Swampert is faster, so he gets a cheeky Earthquake in before Flesh Torch administers his Leafy Justice. I then sent out Rolf to have a showdown with Dugong. And this is a long drawn out battle where Dugong comes out on top with a drill run. Incensed by the fall of one of his subordinates, Bongzilla comes in to get revenge. He's sadly slower than a Dugong, so he takes a Surf to the face. But after that he can finally dole out death with his mighty X-Scissor, killing the Dugong for good. Next up is Wailord, and I use Bongzilla here to get rid of the Lumberry that this bulky git had with a Toxic. And then sadly the leader of the pack is taken out. So I sent him Flesh Torch to take down this Wailord. Thanks to Bongzilla's sacrifice, Victreebel can put the Wailord to sleep, and then he can kill it in its slumber with 2 Leaf Blades. Which leaves us with the last matchup of this battle, Dimple vs Lapras. And thankfully for us, Lapras has no Lumberry, so we easily take it down with the help of Confusion and a bunch of Sludge Bombs, giving us the win. We only have 2 more battles to go and then we've done it. Trust me, these last 2 battles are hard as hell. The next trainer up is Drake, and here's his squad. I don't need to say anything, do I? You see it.
Oh my god!
I sent in Squidward to take on Latios, who is incredibly powerful and can take down all of my Pokemon in one shot if given the chance. But mercifully we can confuse him, which allows Squidward to kill him without taking a hit. And then Squidward comes face to face with a mighty Tyranitar who does not intimidate Squidward because he has a clear body. Tentacruel kills the Tyranitar in one shot with a critical Hydro Pump, asserting his manly dominance. I decided to give our squid a rest and I sent in Nidoking to take on Salamence. And the Salamence nearly kills King with a single Earthquake, and Nidoking hits back with a Head Smash that does about 3/4 of Salamence's health, but kills King in the process. So once more I sent out our Squidly champion Tentacruel, who takes down the Salamence with an Aurora Beam. Squidward is such a Chad. I give him another rest and I sent out Flesh Torch to take on Dragonite. I got Victory Bell to use a Toxic to get rid of Dragonite's Lumberry, which will help us in a second. But sadly Dragonite smashes us with an Earthquake that does a great deal of damage. And I of course use Flesh Torch's speed to my advantage to put Dragonite to sleep. Then Victory Bell slowly murders his prey with Sludge Bombs. I leave him Flesh Torch to take on his Kingdra, and Victory Bell manages to get off a critical Leaf Blade that almost kills the Kingdra. But unfortunately Kingdra responds with an Ice Beam that takes away what remains of Flesh Torch's health. And I then send in the Bug King to clean up. And before the Kingdra can do anything, Bongzilla kills him with an X-Scissor. I leave Bongzilla in to fight his Latias. And Latias buffs itself up with a Calm Mind, which allows Bongzilla to get off a Toxic, which will help later on. And I sent in Dimple to take on this Git. I straight away set up a Confuse Ray with Gengar that nearly helps him get the kill, but sadly Latias takes Gengar down with an incredibly powerful Dragon Claw, so I subbed in Rolf to finish the job. But he didn't have to do anything because Bongzilla's poison does its work and it gets the kill. Technically that was Bongzilla's kill, and this long journey is now going to come to an end with this battle with Steven. And here's his squad. Look at that squad, he's got a bloody Mewtwo!
Game over, man! It's game over!
And I sent out our buff Squid to take on Steven's first Pokemon Metagross. And Squidward shows off his manly dominance with a critical Hydro Pump that kills the Metagross in one shot. I next sent out the Bug King against the monstrous mutant that is Mewtwo. Mainly because Bongzilla can actually take a hit from Mewtwo, and I used this opportunity to use a Toxic, getting rid of Mewtwo's Lumberry. So I send in Squidward to finish this Git off. Although Squidward takes a big Psychic, he's able to set up a Confuse Ray, and this makes it so he can take the Mewtwo down with a few Hydro Pumps. And the next matchup is between Nidoking and Aerodactyl. The Aerodactyl hits Nidoking with a strong Earthquake before he can even do anything, but he follows up with a Head Smash that takes the Aerodactyl down and himself in the process. And the next Pokemon he sends out is a Deoxys, which is a big roadblock. No matter what I do, it kills my whole squad because it's faster than all of them and can kill them in one shot.
And now for something completely different.
So I headed back to the Victory Road because there's an abundance of Crobats here and a Crobat would be very useful. And this is because it's incredibly speedy and it has some good moves for the fight I'm stuck on. I don't know why I wasn't using one the whole time, they're great. And I named this Crobat Brian after the life of Brian, because she very well might be our Messiah.
He's not the Messiah, he's a very naughty boy!
So I went back up to the fight with Steven with our new squad member in tow, and I sent out Nidoking to take on his first Pokemon Metagross, and Nidoking manages to get the kill with a critical Earthquake on the Metagross. And then I sent in Dimple to take on his Starmie. Gengar used a Shadow Ball that just so happened to be a crit, killing the Starmie with ease. The next battle is between Squidward and Mewtwo, and Tentacruel manages to survive a Psychic while also getting rid of Mewtwo's Lumberry, and he's sadly taken down with another Psychic. So I sent in our new ladette Brian to cause some shenanigans. And thanks to Squidward's ploy, Brian with the help of Confusion can take down Mewtwo unscathed. The Crobat shall truly inherit the earth.
That's just what Jesus said, sir!
And I stuck with Crobat for the run-ending Deoxys, who Brian easily outspeeds and kills with a single Shadow Ball. She's clearly Bongzilla's chosen one. And I then sent out Nidoking to take on Aerodactyl again. And it goes exactly the same as last time, with Nidoking tanking an Earthquake and then killing himself to kill Aerodactyl in the process. He's truly a kamikaze warrior. And I sent out Dimple to take on Steven's last Pokemon, Jirachi. Since I have an abundance of Pokemon, I used Gengar to get rid of Jirachi's Lumberry. Then Dimple is hit with an extra sentry that almost kills him, but he hangs on for dear life. Gengar manages to get off a Shadow Ball that doesn't do too much damage, and then he is taken down by a Fire Punch. I next sent in Rolf to take on Jirachi, and before Rolf can do anything he's slammed with a strong extra sentry that nearly kills him, but he slaps back with an Earthquake that does a decent chunk of damage to Jirachi. However, that doesn't stop Rolf's death at the hands of another extra sensory. So I sent in the Jesus Christ of this squad, Crobat, and she uses her Confuse Ray shenanigans to get the chance to kill Jirachi with a Shadow Ball, thus winning us this challenge.
You're not singing, you're not singing, you're not singing anymore!
I really didn't think we would actually be able to complete this challenge, but we did it. And it's thanks to Bongzilla and his amazing leadership. And his second in command, Brian the Crobat. But obviously big up to the whole squad. Squidward was a total beast through the course of this run. This ROM hack was about as much fun as shoving a cactus up my arse, but I hope you enjoyed the video at the very least. Because this was a lot of work. 150 hours or so of my life down the drain. Don't forget to leave a comment and a like on this video, because I need all the help I can get in this YouTube game. I really want to do this for a job one day. As always, thank you for watching, and I will see you later.